Hello, my name is Betty Johnson, and I am here today in this video to talk to you about Mary Magdalene. I am an author. I am a two-time award-winning author because I've written 2 books on Mary Magdalene. And this is the one I'm going to talk about today, Secrets of the Magdalene Scrolls. And I will even read a little portion of it later. But right now I want to talk to you about Mary Magdalene. And I did extensive research like Dan Brown did in his book. However, mine went a little bit more in depth about Mary Magdalene. In fact, a lot more in depth. And what most researchers who only use primarily the Old and New Testament, they don't go further afield and look for what could have been or what was, because they think that the writers from the time of Constantine are the ones who are correct, and it's not true. In fact, I found that many of them are just write what they want to write, and many of them aren't true at all. In fact, they left many of the books out of the New Testament and also possibly the Old Testament. When they met at the Council of Nicaea in, I believe it was 323 or 325 AD, Constantine brought all of these supposedly, well, let's see, they weren't really called priests or preachers at that time, but they were men who went around and they would go and stand in the village square and start reading from these texts. But something else that I just discovered recently, when I was reading a book on Constantine, because I became even more curious because I'm writing a 3rd book, is that during this time, before the Council of Nicaea, it was the women from the time of Jesus and Mary Magdalene who were the priestesses, I'm going to say, going from village to village, wherever they were, and they were telling about Jesus and Mary Magdalene. It was a most interesting thing because they were the ones who were the creators of what we now call Christianity. It was the women who was doing so much of this. And I have this as Mary Magdalene, once she got to Europe, went from village to village and taught. She was a great teacher. She was a great woman. And I feel that she has been maligned very much in history. In fact, most women have been maligned in history. And history is very fluid, very fluid. And, well, you'll be surprised at what I'm writing next because I'm doing extensive research on that too. But Mary Magdalene was the equal to Jesus. They both were initiates in a school in Egypt, an ancient school of wisdom in Egypt. And whether they met in the school or whether it was later, who knows. But they both were of royalty. He was not born of a poor carpenter. That was not true at all. And Mary Magdalene was of royalty. And they met and they married. And this is why when Jesus turned the water into wine, it was at his wedding ceremony. And why wouldn't he be married? Because during that time he was called rabbi, and a rabbi had to be married. He couldn't just be a solo guy, not at all. And one of the greatest messages in the New Testament, in the book of Matthew, is the message called the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus went up on the hill and he started teaching this. But it's also something that came down from Egyptian history, from the initiate schools, the Sermon on the Mount. And in it, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. He was only preaching love and not hatred. He wasn't preaching war. He wasn't teaching the devil. He was preaching about how to live life and to be happy. And that was also Mary Magdalene's message. So I have written this book, Secrets of the Magdalene Scrolls, and I'm going to read a little portion from something that came to me as I was writing this. In fact, it was very interesting. The book almost wrote itself at times because it flowed, so I didn't really have to stop and think too much about it. This is called The Nobleness of Life, from Mary Magdalene. I have always honored all members of my family. I have always honored the place of right and truth. I always expect to know greatness in others. I always expect the unexpected. I have never sought my name to be praised. I have always treated servants with honor and respect. I have always respected another person's truth. I have not caused pain to another. I have caused no man or woman to hunger. I have never created a cause for anyone to weep. I have never killed another, for I value life. I have not taken from any man or woman what is not rightfully mine. I am pure in spirit and mind. There are more words and sentences about the nobleness of life, but I ask that you go to my website and you can purchase my books and read it for yourself, because there is a lot of rich history as well as, well, I wrote it as fiction and I made it interesting because most people would not even pick up some of these books unless you had to have action, thriller, love, mystery, and I have it all in this book. It's exciting. I've had great reviews. And so here it is, Secrets of the Magdalene Scrolls by Bettye Johnson. And my website is www.magdalenescrolls.com. You can buy it there, or you can buy it from my other website. It's actually a blog, and it's called Bettye's Secrets. And that website is http://bettyjohnson.com. Now my name Bettye is spelled B-E-T-T-Y-E, and I can thank my mother for that. So my name is Bettye Johnson, either at magdalenescrolls.com or bettyjohnson.com. Thank you.